Hello, this is Donna Lewis at the Clark County Park District, and today I'm coming to you from Hosterman Lake at George Rogers Clark Park. You can hear a bunch of the cicadas in the background, and I just heard a blue jay, probably hear some frogs, hopefully, while I'm out here. It's not as much breeding season now, and you'll hear vehicles from the highway, which is not as enjoyable. So today I'm going to talk about some of the critters that are seen at and around the lake. So a lot of people were coming out, especially during this pandemic. People needed things to do and they're coming to the lake, and we just want to remind people about some of the animals that live here, and to make sure that our visitors show them the respect that they deserve while they're here. So we get lots of green frogs at our lake out here, especially in the mucky areas, painted turtles, obviously some snappers and some other species, salamanders, snails, and other wildlife, and of course a lot of fish. And this wildlife does a number of good things for the lake. So the green frog, now this is probably most likely a bullfrog, example of a bullfrog, because the green frog would have ridges here on its back. But again, this is a plastic specimen, plastic replica. So it's not going to be exactly like it. Now, but a lot of the frogs that we have, this is a bullfrog example, but I'm going to talk about the green frog because it looks a lot like the bullfrog. It's a little smaller. The green frog is by far the most abundant. The bullfrog is the largest frog that we have in Ohio. So what role does the green frog have? So for one thing, they serve as a food source for other animals. So the smaller ones will serve as a food source for some of the fish out there, and raccoons and other things that come to the lake. But they also do a lot of good in what they eat. So bullfrog or green frog, they eat tons of insects and other animals, which helps their populations. We can't have too many, like if we had too many mosquitoes out here right now, it would be driving me nuts. And we've had years like that here at the lake. So having animals that eat insects, such as mosquitoes and other bugs, really helps us out a lot. So they help keep a lot of smaller animals in check. So slugs, snails, did I forget my snail? Oh, I lost it. So we have snails like this big at our lake. I'm gonna try to find my snail example. I think I lost it. I'm in the grass here by the lake, and I can't find stuff in the grass once I sit down. So we have some really large snails here at the lake, and they provide food, especially when they're a little smaller. They'll provide food for animals like this. Crayfish, spiders, this is the things that these guys eat. Just about anything. Crayfish, spiders, caterpillars, butterflies, moths. They'll also eat they'll eat small snakes and other frogs. So they eat tons of stuff out of the lake. And this helps keep those populations of species in check. So, and they're preyed upon by a lot of animals. So the tadpoles and eggs are eaten by leeches, dragonfly larvae, because dragonflies, tons of them start their life out here in the lake. Other aquatic insects, fish, turtles, and herons eat them. So some larger turtles, snapping turtles probably. Herons, we do get, Clark is our mascot here at George Rogers Clark in Springfield, Ohio. And we do get wild herons here, and they will eat things like the green frog or the bullfrog. So they'll be eaten by raccoons, mink, and humans even. So now, and there's no negative effects known for the green frog. Now, sometimes the bullfrog can be too prevalent in areas, and people they just feel like they have too many and they're eating things up. But there's no negative effects known of the green frog, and we definitely don't see any effects out here except good stuff that they do. So it's really important that we let these guys live in the lake where they're supposed to live. So these are a native species to Ohio, and we want them to stay here. So if people took them out of the lake, we wouldn't have as many species to eat some of our insects and other things that they eat. And we would also be taking away a food source. That would not make this guy very happy, right? Okay, another thing that you might see at our lake and other lakes around are painted turtles. This is a native species. Now, again, plastic replica, they're gonna look a little bit different. Usually their shell is darker. Not going to look exactly like this, but this is pretty good. They can be larger. A lot of them are around this size that I've seen. So painted turtles are another thing that are really important predators of small fish, crustaceans, and other invertebrates in aquatic ecosystems. So they eat a lot of aquatic stuff. They have to eat in the water because of the way they chew. They mainly feed on plants, small animals, fish, crustaceans, aquatic insects, and sometimes even dead stuff. A lot of animals eat dead things. We do too. We just cook it first, right? So young painted turtles are mainly carnivorous. So what are carnivores? They eat mainly meat. So these guys are carnivores too. Big meat eaters. But these eat they eat plants and animals. But when they're younger, they're mostly carnivorous. And usually they get a taste for plants later in life. So they also provide food for other animals. Raccoons, otter, mink, fox, and other types of animals. And when you see these guys, you'll usually see them a lot of times. Sometimes you'll see them in the rivers or in the lakes, and they'll be like piled on top of each other on like logs sticking out of the water or rocks. And at the first sign that you're coming with your kayak, canoe, or whatever, they'll jump into the water for safety. So they know that they're safer in the water. Sometimes you'll just see their little heads peeking up when you're canoeing or kayaking in the river. It's pretty cool. So, but again, you want to leave them alone because they do a lot better in the wild than in captivity, okay? So another thing, they don't really cause any harm, but you do want to use caution whenever you handle a turtle because they can carry something called salmonella bacteria in their digestion. So it's harmless to the turtle, but it can be, it can make humans very sick, okay? And especially kids and older people. So that's why baby turtles are not supposed to be sold. So if you ever see them being sold, please don't buy them because they're more dangerous because kids can just stick them in their mouth. Gross, I know, but kids don't think about that. Little kids, and kids don't wash their hands very well sometimes. We're being told to wash them all the time now, but kids still aren't very good at that sometimes. So it's very important not to handle these if at all possible. Now, we also have a lot of fish in our lake, as many other lakes do, and rivers. Salamanders are very important to the ecosystem. They eat a lot of stuff. They also tend to tell scientists when something might be wrong with the waterway because they're very sensitive to pollutants. Snails, dragonflies, ducks, geese, snakes, all kinds of stuff here at the lake at the Clark County Park District. And the only thing that we allow to be taken from the lake are some of the fish. And we do have a sign here to tell you which ones. So so we have a strict policy here at the park to not take anything out of the lake except the fish. So you are free to catch some of the fish and take them to eat them. Catch and release doesn't always work real well, but we don't allow the perch to be kept or the bass to be kept, but most of our other fish can be kept, and we have a fishing sign here. The things we do not allow to be kept are anything else but fish. So our turtles, our snails, our frogs, our salamanders, of course our waterfowl, our birds, all of that stuff needs to stay here at the park because these things are very important so they can produce more for the park and so they can provide food, eat stuff we don't want too much of. This is where they live, so we want to leave them in their habitat. So what can you do to help? That's one thing you can do, is just leave them alone, okay? So leave them in the wild where they belong. We don't allow anything at the park to be taken, like I said, but the fish. We don't allow them to be taken as pets or food. So these animals are going to have a much better quality of life in the wild. This turtle has to live in water and have access to land. So it's kind of tough to take care of these guys. And these guys too. They don't really enjoy captivity. It's not really a good quality of life for them. They're a wild animal. And anything else that you put in there, as I learned at a nature center where I worked, will be eaten by these frogs because they eat about everything. So it's much better. It's really hot out here. It's much better to leave them in the wild. Avoid using pesticides and herbicides in your yard. These chemicals run off into waterways and harm animals like this. And if they're harming them, and if we get in that water, it's definitely going to harm us as well. Another thing you don't want to do is dump chemicals down sewer drains or anything, because that all runs to our waterways. And we get our water from those waterways. So really important to help protect our environment. It not only protects frogs and turtles and herons and other things out there, but it protects us as well. Using the thumb rule when observing animals. So stick out your thumb. If you can't see that animal, past, like if your thumb hides the animal, you're far enough away. That's a safe distance, okay? And educate others on how they can help. So if anybody says, you know, I'm gonna go catch me a frog at the lake or at the local river or wherever, and I'm gonna put it in a cage, or aquarium, I think I wanna have a frog, or I want a turtle, that'd be great. Well, these don't make very good pets. So it's really helpful if other people get the message out as well, that these animals really deserve a life in the wild and not stuck in a cage or an aquarium. All right, that's it for today. I just needed to let people know about some of the animals that, you know, we want to keep our animals here at the park. They are wildlife for everyone to enjoy and to help everybody that comes here, from the bugs and the other things that they eat. You know, it helps us in the long run. Everything's connected. It's a big circle, kind of a convoluted, crazy circle, but it's all connected. So please help us out and help keep our animals here at the lake healthy at George Rogers Clark Park and at other parks and places that you go to. Let's leave these guys in the wild. Thanks a lot. Email me at dlewis@clarkcountyparks.org if you have any questions. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.